The U.S. is bombing into Crete in support of a 3-week-old ground operation against ISIS there that has been undertaken mostly by Shiite fighters being led by Iran's Revolutionary Guard. Given our relationship with Iran, us fighting ISIS while Iran is fighting ISIS, that was weird enough. But American forces actually participating alongside Iran in the exact same battle? That is more cognitive dissonance than U.S. officials are prepared to explain away.
Somebody's going to have to explain it. Our next guest serves the people of the 3rd Congressional District in Pennsylvania. Let us welcome back to MidPoint Congressman Mike Kelly. Congressman, good to talk to you again.
Oh, it's good to be with you, too. Thanks, Ed.
I know full well that the administration has to basically have something to say about this, but here we are. We are now involved in fighting with Iran, fighting against Iran, and also in the midst of a nuclear deal that looks like it may or may not get done. There's still a 50-50 chance on this. What happened here, Congressman? How did we get involved in this stunning mess with Iran? And it doesn't seem as if there's any way out at this time.
Well, I think a lot of it started several years ago, and whenever we had decided to get out of Iran early or out of Iraq early and started telling people when we're going to leave, and then all of a sudden things start to back up on us in Afghanistan. We look at everything that's going on in the world today, Ed. I think the one thing we have to realize, these are generational wars. I don't think in my lifetime, I'm 66 now, I don't think in my lifetime I'll ever see it come to an end. It's almost like the rebirth of the Holy Wars, and it's going to be a generational war that's going to take America staying on top of it. We can't fund everybody's problems around the world, but we should be able to add leadership. The president's theory of leading from behind, which I don't think anybody quite understands, including himself, has created a vacuum of leadership at the top, which has allowed a lot of thugs, it's emboldened them now to do things that they wouldn't have done before. And, I keep hearing this line all the time, and it's very true. Our friends no longer trust us, and our enemies no longer fear us. Now we're backed into a corner trying to make an agreement with a country who their leaders say, yes, death to America, and we're going to sit down at the table with them and ask, let's just have a nice cup of coffee, maybe have a cigar or two, and work this out between us. Their idea of working it out between us is eliminating us. And I think that the radical Islamic movement is something that we have to recognize, something we're going to have to continue to cope with. But if it's not us at the top leading, Ed, it won't be anybody.
Well, but then let me hit you on that, Congressman, for a second here.
Over the next several decades. It's not going to happen overnight.
Let me hit you on that then, and you're talking about this generational war here. How then do we add leadership without adding billions more of taxpayer dollars, much more military equipment that is going to be wasted, and the potential of American bodies on Middle Eastern sands?
Well, I think that all the things you just talked about are on the table. And as much as I hate to say that, listen, my parents fought a depression in the Great World War. They didn't want to do it. It wasn't optional, though. They had to go do it. I think as we look at where we are today, nobody wants to see any of our sons or daughters put in jeopardy. But as we look at what's happening, and once Africa explodes, and it's going to happen. Africa is going to explode. Once Africa explodes, then it becomes such a global situation that I don't know how we'll rein it in. I think one thing we have to do is pick our fight, pick the people that we can back after we've vetted them, and make sure that equipment and assets, military assets that we dedicate, are being used the right way. This battle is going to have to be taken up by those people who live in that part of the world, but they have to know that the United States is going to be there in a leadership position. I think they wonder all the time when they see an administration that continually wants to capitulate, and they say, but you guys need to hold the line. I don't think there's ever been more confusion in the world right now as to who's really in charge, whether we encourage Putin by our lack of action in Europe and that part of Asia, or we go into the Mideast and we look at our lack of leadership there and our capitulation there, and when we leave Israel hang out to dry and then say, well, yeah, but we're still behind you, but just way behind you. I think we've created now that vacuum at the top that I talked about that is it's encouraging these bad actors to come forward, because I don't really think they believe the United States is going to step in. Now, what happens? These are oil-rich countries, some of them. We ought to do what President Bush...
Well, let me stop you 1 second here, Congressman. One second, because we're going to take a break here. But in 30 seconds I have left, pick up on something you said.
Yeah.
Who then is the country that we pick as the ally to help us? Who can we trust? Because it doesn't seem there is anybody in the Middle East outside of Israel that we can trust. There's even question by some people on that country. Who do we pick?
I used to be on foreign affairs, and I would get briefings on that. Right now, we don't get as many briefings. We do know who our friends are, and we do know who we can count on. It's just, I think, at different times we are politically motivated to do nothing. And in that case, our friends really start to turn away from us.
Who is that friend, though, Congressman? Who are those one or two countries?
Well, I think in all those countries, because Ed, the biggest problem is these are tribal issues that we're facing right now. It's not so much, we think of them as countries as the way we think of our country and our nation. No. These are countries, large areas of land with different nations inside them.
Okay,
So
hold
whether
that
it be
thought.
Sunni or Shia, we have different people.
Hold that thought, Congressman. We're right up against the clock. I want to continue on that when we come back. Congressman Mike Kelly, joins us when we come back right here where we question everything. This is MidPoint. All right, back to work. Pennsylvania Republican Congressman Mike Kelly joins us once again. Congressman, I needed to ask you one more thing on Iran before we move on to the budget and some other things here. Former Ambassador John Bolton has an editorial, an op-ed in the New York Times, which basically says, if you want to stop Iran, bomb them right now. We've had some people on the air today who said that's one of the stupidest things they've ever heard. What's your take?
It's funny. The reason I laugh, I was just with Ambassador Bolton about a week ago, and he gave us pretty much a global summary of what was going on in the world today. I don't know. I think when he says that, I think he speaks from a vast knowledge of those areas. Those people that criticize him for saying that are people that wish things would get different and understand that really where we are right now, the people we're fighting against are people that are just not in it for a fight. They're in it for the end. And I think that he speaks in a way that people need to hear. We have to become stronger when we say things. We just can't say things and then draw red lines and say it wasn't really a red line, it was kind of a soft pink line. There has to be consequences for people who do the wrong things. But really getting back to what he said, if we do know, there's military intelligence, although they can't speak about it openly, they know who you can trust and who you can't trust. They know who you can give military assets to that they're going to be used the right way, and they know who you don't want to give things to. So I think that we're much farther along. I don't think this is a White House that listens to military advice. I think they decide to go on their own trail. They look at the world in a completely different, through rose-colored glasses that most of us would not look at. In a hand-to-hand battle, I think you have to be really smart. And it's the old story when you're in a peeing battle with a skunk, sometimes the only way to beat him is to out-pee him. And I think in this case, we're in a situation where these people are tough people.
But you wouldn't agree with bombing Iran, though, would
kindness,
you?
Kindness. Here's what I say. You do anything you have to do to make sure that you ensure safety and peace around the world. And in some cases, you have to do away with those who are causing those problems. It's that simple.
Okay. Let's move on to something not so simple.
Sure.
The budget, if you will. We have got a lot of people and a lot of Democrats, a lot of folks in Congress are just saying that the new Republican budget is insensitive, unaware.
Sure.
You're siding with the wealthy over the middle class right now, and you're going to hurt senior citizens. How do you answer those critics?
Well, I think, again, there's only so much you can do with the budget. 70% of the budget is mandatory. You can't touch it. There's the 30% we can work with. I think that our budget, the responsible budget, looking out 10 years to actually bring it into balance. I think you can say those things about being heartless, about being insensitive, but the only thing you can't be when it comes to dealing with money is freaking stupid. The idea that you can keep on spending and not ever having to worry about balancing a budget, not ever having to worry about actually going out and earning the money in order to fund those type of programs is easy. I can sit back and say, I think we ought to take care of all these things. Then the question is, that's a great idea. How are you going to do it? With your money. And I don't mean it comes down to just dollars and cents. It means it comes down to the reality of, can we really supply those types of revenues that are going to be needed for some of these programs? Ed, there's nothing worse than an unsustainable program. There's nothing worse than a promise that you know you can't keep, but you just say, well, I meant it when I said it. Unfortunately, I can't do it now. We are looking at realistically at the growth of our economy and what we're going to have to do to make whole the people who provide the revenue. I don't think you keep the old story.
Congressman, is that really what you want to do?
Don't worry about the wagon. Don't worry about the mule. Just load the wagon. We've got to come to something that's realistic, and I think that's what Tom Price did.
Would you then want to look at your opponents across the aisle and the Democrats and say, all right, you can slam this all you want, but I'll tell you what, look me right in the eye right now and tell me what you want to do with the fact that we have no money, our entitlements are killing us, we're going broke, and we can't print money every single day. Is that what you'd like to do?
Well, yeah, that is the answer. You have to be realistic about it. There's none of us who run our houses, our businesses, our churches, or our schools this way. My God, this is being stupid. You just can't do that. It's nice to make those promises when you don't have to back them up. These are people that won't be there when these things hit the ball.
All right, I got about a minute left here. Got to ask you last about Harry Reid. Says he won't run for re-election in 2016. Yeah. While he certainly is somebody on the other side of the aisle, maybe there are those who will admire him because what the man has done certainly is stick to his guns no matter what.
Yes, yeah. Well, he's very focused on stopping things from happening. He did a great job for the last 6 years, the first term and a half of the president. He was able to deflect anything from coming to the Senate floor. I think when they talked about a dysfunctional Congress or a Congress that wasn't working the right way, they were right. But it wasn't the House of Representatives. That's one half of Congress. The other half's down in the Senate. Everything got stopped there. He's still, from his minority position, able to work different levers to keep things from moving forward in an orderly manner. Now, he's hell-bent to keep that way.
Is he the dysfunctional master then,
2 more
Congressman? Is when you talk about dysfunction, is he the dysfunctional master then?
I think what he's done is he's been able to master that group of his to go along with it. Yeah, there's great things that we can get done, but it's going to take people wanting to work together. He does not want to work with Republicans. He's said that now for 6 years. So I think what we look at is we also have options being in the majority that we should be able to use. I think we need to start taking a stronger look. If we're going to get America back on track, we're going to have to pull out all the stops too. He's pulled all the stops out to keep us from working that direction. We need to pull all the stops out that we have to push in that direction.
10 seconds. One name strike you possibly as a replacement?
For them, on their side?
Yeah.
No, I have no idea. I don't know anybody there that I want to work with. I've heard them all before. They're all about the same.
I was going to say, I thought that was probably going to be next. Who am I going to work with? Congressman Mike Kelly, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Always honest. Thank you so much, sir. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Ed.
All right, take care. At least the man is honest. You got to give him that. MidPoint continues.